Hello, hello. How's it going, everybody? A little bit different topic today. As we were looking at other things, maybe a week or two ago, we were looking at the docs, and we noted that it appeared the Deep Links plugin now works with desktop. I think it was. I want to say it was originally made and only supported mobile, but it does say it's on the supported platforms for everything now. It felt like an interesting thing to dive into. We'll see how far we get though. Let's go ahead and pop on over here. I've got it up already, including a bunch of the stuff we were working on before. I don't see any actual docs about the Windows though. So app, it appears that's still iOS here. So it could very well be only on mobile. See, so there's Android, there's iOS. So I think we'll end up looking more directly at the docs to verify these bits here. We do have a specific Rust version, so let's see. Where do we put this? I guess probably the Tauri playground. Feels Leptos started to delete me eventually. I was like, wait a minute, what? Okay, yeah, I think probably Tauri Playground makes sense to me. And we are on let's look at the local first data one. Come on. Starship, tell me what version I'm on. There we go, 1.8. So we should be fine as far as the version goes. But let's actually look at the docs first. There's a reference as well. Plugin deep link. Get const URLs, get current. Get current. Get the current URLs that triggered the deep link. Okay. Check whether your app was started via a deep link. Windows Linux unsupported. The OS will spawn a new app instance passing the URL as a CLI argument. Okay, so it does appear that there is some support. It is not well documented though, it seems. Register, unregister. Let's take a look though at. This feels like something that I am perfectly comfortable putting it purely in Rust. I think we actually look at the code. So if we go to the plugin workspace, the deep link package has there's an examples app. That might be something that would be worth pulling up. If we look at the index HTML, I'm guessing that's going to have most of the work here because it's the vanilla template. Updated intent by event. Okay, so they're doing some work there. And it's pulling in source main.ts. So all of our JavaScript is going to be in here. it has a query selector, and then get current deep link URLs. So depending on what you have configured, it's going to show in this example app. There we go. If we go to, let's look at the Tauri configuration file at first. Plugins, whatever. Hello world. We do have deep link, both mobile and desktop. So schemes are going to be the thing that defines if you have a link and you click it and the desktop understands you can click it. These are the like base schemes that it understands will be forwarded to this. If we look at the Rust side of things now, so it's just registering all of them. So anything that it finds in the deep link configuration, in that Tauri configuration, it's just registering them all. And when somebody opens a link, what it's going to do is it's just going to debug it. So we'll just see that it has happened. And I think this is where we need to handle it. So in some ways, like this might end up being something where you would forward it to your front end via an event, and your front end would say, it basically like subscribe to these events. So on app mount, if it gets an event for this, maybe do a React router or some sort of router functionality to then handle that URL. But that could take a fair amount of configuration, which is not unexpected, but also it's going to take a little bit to set this up. Like you're going to want to do it if you have a specific reason. This isn't a willy-nilly thing. So it emits events on Mac, iOS, and Android. On Windows and Linux, it will spawn a new instance of your app with the URL as a CLI argument. There is the single instance plugin. That's probably going to be something that we want to also enable, because then that way the single instance plugin will enforce plugin name single instance. Now, is this app.emit single instance? I'm not sure how those will work together. This would prevent another instance from opening, I presume. Register. Okay. And all right, well, there's not much there. Let's look at the single instance plugin here. Usage. By default, when you initiate a new instance, when the application is already running, no action is taken. To focus the window of the running instance when the user tries to open a new instance, alter the clickback closure as follows. So we have it's handling it on desktop, which would be fine. And I think in theory, we would only need to do this. Mac might get odd because it emits event when you try to open it, but also if you do this single instance plugin, you probably only want a single instance as well. So what it's doing is if we get let show window, so it's running a function. If this fires off an event it's doing show window, and it is with an app handle, WebView Windows values next, set focus. I wonder how that works. Because if you have a separate instance, I don't think it's behaving like a separate. If you open a website in two browser tabs, that's one instance, two instances. There's little context that you can get into your app to understand if somebody has done that. I mean, there might be hacky ways, but like built-in methods to handle that is I can't think of anything offhand. So I think that wouldn't be a good metaphor to think of this single instance. The single instance I believe is more of the operating system knows that an app is running with a specific ID. If you try to open a second one, where effectively we can grab like that app handle, and it's we've spawned it to the operating system, and we can grab a handle back to that in theory from another app with the same, I'm guessing with that same if we look at the example here, and we look at our Tauri configuration, there is the identifier. I'm thinking it's using the identifier, and that's partly why operating systems require that to be unique. Okay, so that could work, and then effectively what we would end up doing would be emit an event, and if we get the single instance, then we would have to handle it on the front end, and that would be a case of somebody clicks a link and it opens up our app, and we either want to open up another instance, or we want to open up, or we want an existing instance to potentially focus and then route to whatever link we gave it. I think we're going to start off though and just see if we can get it to react to like clicking a link. So let's look at that. The template.desktop. So this is likely the thing that's getting passed to the operating system to register the link, because effectively you need to say, well, if you get a link of X, if somebody interacts with the thing X and it's registered in the operating system, then fire off this callback essentially. So we got a get current, register, unregister is registered. Config. So when we're defining our scheme, that's going to define this bit. And this might be familiar especially if you've dug around in the like IPC layer, the communication type layers. Rather than saying scheme HTTP or HTTPS, we used this, and we use this as a mechanism to go over like the same protocols, but then handle those differently before it actually does what a browser would normally do with that type of request. Do we have a good example of that? Deep linking, clipboard. I thought there was a. I guess not. If we look at the is it core? We might not actually even be able to see it in here. We're invoking a command, and then we give it options. You'd probably have to look at the code. So this is calling an invoke. Tauri internals. We've done this before. And most of this ends up coming back to the invoke and IPC layer type stuff, where this ends up being exposed. Maybe is a good way to say it. Exposed. Where's it under? I think that is actually more directly within CLI creates examples. Oh, we like we shifted stuff around a little bit, don't we? Audits bench creates example packages. I didn't think it was part of the API, but maybe it is. Like we just recently we moved stuff around a little bit, and there used to be like a tooling folder, I think. Hey Nicola, good to see you. Core invoke Tauri internals. Where is that that iffy? I don't think it's in the CLI, is it? That feels funny. Have we embedded it directly in one of the crates? Tauri runtime? No, that all looks like Rust. Where did it move to? We're looking for the. I mean, this is probably a distraction that we don't need to dive into. We used to have a tooling folder, and we've moved stuff around. I think because recently we shifted to PNMP, and oh, actually we can create schema worker and examples. Creates Tauri schema worker. Cloudflare worker. Okay. This is all new. We got more things to dive into. I honestly don't know what happened to it. I thought it was in a separate tooling. And that's what got injected. But it must have been moved directly into one of the packages. And I don't know offhand. I haven't looked since things were shifted around. Mobile permission scripts. Here. Yeah, see, restructure the repository. We want to find the specific spot where it is. So it uses a post message if it is isolation mode, which is more secure, but it has downsides, which is why it's not the default. Yeah, isolation. No, not isolation. Default break. Okay, so if it's brownfield, it does post message. If it's isolation, it does invalid. Okay. If isolation ready, queue. Okay, error, others default. Send isolation message, I guess. It's the other one. So it's post message or that. I think it was. I feel like I always forget which one's which. If pattern is isolation, then it adds a listener, and that handles the send isolation message, but it also does a post. Okay. Anyways, distractions. We want to look at I think it's the protocol invoke key. So this is where it's actually like we're firing off the response, send IPC message. That's what I was looking for. We must have been down a separate code path. That define property post message. I was thinking it was like there's like a browser post message or something, isn't there? I was thinking it was that, but we're actually like defining a property, send IPC message, of which it does the fetch. I think we want convert file source. I think that's where we're going to end up seeing the schemes. Pattern. No, I don't remember which one it's in. Here. Protocol. So if we're on Windows or Android, then this is our protocol. Otherwise, this is our protocol. So the protocol ends up being that's effectively the scheme. So what we're doing is if we get a URL with some specific structure that we've registered with the operating system, tying this all back around, we call a register function and we say, yep, see, here's the protocol. With this protocol handled in this way. If you want your app to handle Tauri links, call this method with Tauri as a protocol. So basically, we're registering with the operating system a way to handle these very specific links. So if you get like, here, if we click and copy message link in Discord, and I just paste this, whoop, that's not what I wanted. I didn't want it to go. I think it was copy message link. ID. And this is actually Discord. I thought there was one where it actually had the scheme where it was like like this. It could be that it might just be set up to do that on Mac or Discord at least. But like this would be the protocol. So HTTP is the protocol or HTTPS. But you can also set up custom ones. And there's additionally command line. There's I think it's just an example, isn't it? If we look at the examples and I think the streaming has a custom implementation through get stream response main Tauri builder, and it has a register asynchronous URI scheme protocol. So that's effectively in the same vein, registering a way to handle these custom protocols. This is, I don't know if this is directly in the web view or if it would work. I'm pretty certain this is directly in the web view. So the deep link is sort of like building on that, expanding on that, and saying, well, what if we also take that same consideration and register it with the operating system to then trigger a way to open up the app, and then our app can handle that action. Okay, so let's go. Oh, this is how we got distracted. Host cannot start with the scheme. Please remove the scheme prefix. Oh. Interesting. Yeah, and see, this is where you start running into these differences. Mobile requires this. So when you copy a link, this is why if you take a Discord link and you try to open it up on your phone, I think both Android and iOS open it in the app by default if it's registered. So if you've installed the Discord app and you open up a Discord link, it will open it up in the app. But you get on desktop and it's different. See, so by clicking a link that's HTTPS, it isn't going to open it up in the app. It's opening it up in the browser. Yay, computers. These URLs are also active in dev mode on Android. Okay, interesting. So I think we try it. Do we? I think I'm actually gonna kick off a new one. We'll put this in Tauri Playground, and we are going to say, let's do a create Tauri app. v2 Tauri.app. Let's do cargo. I'm just gonna reinstall just to make certain that we got the latest. I suppose it could do that too, though. And we are going to name it Deep Link Desktop, because this is only going to be desktop at the moment. Identifier. That's probably fine for right now. We're going to do JavaScript. We're going to do npm because that's an easy default. I guess I'm fine doing React. And let's do, again, so I use TypeScript now. I used to always just default to JavaScript. I've just started defaulting to TypeScript because it's easier to make your TypeScript less, rather than taking JavaScript and adding features on top of it to handle the things that TypeScript is. It's easier to just make TypeScript yell at you less. Just ignore it where I don't want to deal with it. Like even for demos, it used to be, I used to default to using JavaScript because it was easier to spin up a prototype. I don't know, maybe that's because I've used TypeScript enough that I'm comfortable just ignoring it where I know I can ignore it, but it's funny how that goes. Okay, so Rust Analyzer is doing its thing. We should now have a new folder called Deep Link. Oh, that's why you can't find it. Okay. Let's make you a little bit bigger. And sure, let's open that instead of the main one. Rust Analyzer is still going to be doing its thing. I guess we just go through the deep link here. We haven't actually run an install either, so we might need to. Yep. Because it's not actually using npm. It is running the Tauri the Tauri script, which then adds deep link. So that's why it's not working, or it didn't work to just run that directly. We have to install first. And the benefit of, we've talked about this a little bit in the past, but the benefit of using the automatic method is that it adds it to the lib.rs, as well as doing the typical things you'd see with an npm install. And it does do effectively a cargo add as well. I don't think they've moved cargo add into the main cargo project yet, but there's like a subcommand that you can add to do cargo add. Okay. No matching version found. That's not great, but we can deal with that. Cargo add. Cargo add was, or is, a it's like a separate crate. But then at some point they, I think, started having the discussion, does it make sense to move this upstream into cargo itself? I don't know if it is been moved into cargo itself or if it is still something you need to install separately. Yep, cargo add. I don't know offhand on, honestly. This, oh, it's saying greater than. So if we do npm outdated, what does that look like? Current and wanted. Current and wanted. Okay. So CLI, and that seems fine. So it's an issue with installing the Tauri plugin deep link directly. Did we get an update in? Okay, so it did show up in our cargo.toml. It did not show up here. So we actually need to do a little bit of manual work here because things failed and weird states. I'm gonna put it first because they do run in order and I want the deep link to be handled first. Yeah, you don't know if they're in the same package as well. Yeah, I mean that kind of stuff, like functionally it doesn't really make a difference if it's a separate thing, but like if everybody's using it, it makes sense. But there's no, the incentive to get it moved upstream is low. So it takes time because it ends up not being a very strong priority. I imagine though it's eventually going to work its way into the main cargo package. Okay. then we need to do an npm install. I think this is gonna be fine because I don't think it is actually published anywhere else. So I'm gonna literally just do this. Oh, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna copy this and do that. All right. So now we have deep link. Setting up, and here's okay. So there is information about the desktop. On Linux and Windows, deep links are delivered as a command line arg to a new app process. Oh, the deep link plugin has an integration directly with the single instance plugin. Oh. The user could trigger a fake deep link manually by including the URL as an argument. Interesting. Okay. Okay, so we configure domains on mobile and then schemes on desktop. So we're going to go over there first and let us listening to deep links, registering. Okay. So we can, yep. We can register them when the app starts. So in theory, we could have some sort of like configuration or input from the user that would define deep links. I imagine most folks are going to be wanting to do it through configuration. So this is going to be under plugins. I don't think I'll have a plugins, so I'm going to copy that whole thing. And plugins, I believe, is a root piece. I'm going to take off mobile because I don't really need it right now. And we're going to say deep link desktop test. I'm going to have a 1. Now, it just by having this registered, I mean, there's potentially still this that we can do. But I'm fine having multiple apps open up at the moment. Just by doing this, it is basically like statically defining it in the here. So this means Tauri only handles deep links for schemes that were statically configured. So if you are adding it manually at runtime, I mean, manually, I guess, is a bit of a misnomer. But if you're doing it at runtime, if you're setting it up in runtime, then you need to start checking that stuff yourself. So basically, this is saying once you register a deep link, you might want to, before you write code to handle it, it's like a anytime you're exposing stuff on the internet or to some sort of user space, just because you put links to specific spots on your website doesn't mean that folks can't just manually type in a URL and go to it. Which is why if you've ever hosted anything, you'll see a whole bunch of requests for like PHP my admin, or if you ever hosted a WordPress site, there's a bunch of those like backend URLs. Like bots will literally just crawl sites and check all of those to see if they're available and to find vulnerabilities. So just because you haven't actually, if you haven't put a specific thing in user space, you should still check and verify and match, because people can open up literally anything. And you don't want your app to incorrectly handle those things that users have concocted to break. So deep links are only triggered for installed applications at desktop. This was the thing that I was wondering about. So we can so when we're running an app, I don't know. I think we're going to end up trying this. Basically, what this is saying is that these seem like they're the same size. To test and see if you can get this working, you could, in theory, set it up, install, or like build the whole thing, install it, check it. That feedback loop kind of sucks though. So what this is saying is, if you want to actually register it at runtime or kick off a way that you can try to play around with it before you actually like build it and install it, you do this. And basically what you're doing then is registering all of the ones that you've statically configured at runtime. So remember, you're now doing it also at runtime. To trigger a deep link on Linux, you do start. To trigger a deep link on Linux, you can also do it that way. Oh, wait. That's a typo. So we can say start. So we could say something like, and I don't know if this will work in new shell, but if we say start deep link desktop test, and then so that would be our scheme, I think, and then we can say something like open test. We'll have to fix that typo if there's not a PR open for that already. We do also need the permission since our automatic install did not go through. I imagine, yep, we need to do that. Oop. And so this is our scheme. Here's our scheme here. So when we would call this, we would then have something that handles it. But right now we haven't actually, cannot find file or URL. So the operating system's basically saying, and this is new shell. If you haven't used new shell, if this error message doesn't look, that structure doesn't look familiar, that's why. Basically, I'm pretty sure this error is coming. It's either coming from new shell or for the operating system. I'm not quite sure, but in either case, it's looking for that thing that you've registered, and that registration happens at install or it happens at runtime. So if we call this, our statically configured things will then be done at runtime as well. I am curious though what the operating system ramifications of this are. If you do this to test things out and then you later install your app, I'm not sure how those things are going to trigger or how you can go in and like clear that out. It could be something that would be worth further consideration. Let's try it though. I'm gonna leave the greet in there. It's fine for right now. And basically what we're saying is we've now statically configured it, but when we run it, we're going to also do it at runtime. And so that should give us something that handles that. So if we do npm run Tauri dev, it's going to run the app and then that'll end up registering that. So then we would be able to call that start command, I believe, as well. Well, that's going. What is with my sources here? Well, there we go. You can't see it, but one of my monitors was the thing was turned off. Okay, it's still going. So when this starts, we'll get a registration, and then we'll probably want to end up we'll probably want to start looking at the single instance and see what that looks like. Okay, so now it's registered. If we in a separate terminal say start deep link open test, cannot find file or URL. So that should have registered. I would have expected that to register at least. We are running on Windows, so that the thing that we copy and paste should be working. So we should be getting into this Tauri deep link, and we're on Windows. And, okay, so that's a Linux specific thing. Was there an Windows specific thing? Because now we're effectively registering it at runtime. Yeah, and this is basically what we're calling right here. I mean, and so this is the thing. It might be preferred. It might be. So it has, in theory, been registered. Start scheme. Use prefix. Okay, so let's try a different shell. I'm gonna try a CMD, and we'll do it here and see what that looks like. And let me make certain that I'm using this. Open test. There we go. Okay, so it was a new shell thing. We get a couple of things going on here. We have now the new one and the old one. So we have two instances. And did it open up this like shell prompt thing too, which TBD on if we can make that experience better. But we did get two of them. I don't remember if we have anything in the logs that would tell us about this event happening. We can try that next. Okay, so I'm going to close. I'm going to close. And what we've effectively done is registered. Actually, that's an interesting bit. If we've actually stopped this. We've stopped this. If we run this now, are we going to get that same instance to show up? Yes. With a caveat. So to understand what's happening here is we have at runtime, where are we? We have at runtime registered the deep link that we've configured. So that will allow us on Windows to sort of test this functionality out. The thing that we registered is to open up this specific dev app. This dev app is configured to use the front end dev URL. When we call start, the operating system is handling that, opening up our dev app. The app is opening fine, but it can't reach localhost because we're not actually running this dev URL anymore, which is why it worked. That's why this worked before, but it's not working now. So it is deep linking. It's deep linking, but it's quasi broken because we don't have our dev server running. So we could, this is the dev build, so we have a refresh in here. We can literally run to confirm that this is happening as expected. We can run npm run dev, not Tauri dev, just dev. This is our Vite server. Now Vite is running, which is serving our app at localhost 1420. And if we refresh this, it should come back now. So it's working. Now, where do we go from here? I think let's see if we can get the, let's deal with a single instance. Let's deal with a single instance because I want to, I can almost, I think there's probably few use cases where it's going to make sense to open up a separate app. Even if you're doing multi-window, I don't think it makes sense to try to open up and deal with a separate app. Because you would want your main app to handle that and then just open up a separate window if that's the functionality that you want. So I'm going to say that let's set up the single instance and make sure we can get that working. Because I think, where is here? Desktop, single instance plugin. I think this is sort of, maybe paramount sounds like too strong a word, maybe, but it's close to. We're gonna try the automatic. See if we can get this to work this time. It is going to do this. And this is basically saying, if we hit a single instance, how are you going to handle it? If we look here, now we've got the single instance initialized. Interesting. I'm not sure why that's complaining, but we're going to change it anyways, I think. Because what we want to do is we want to say if it's on desktop and we hit a single instance, then we're going to say we're going to print out this line. And then we'll do the deep link. So I think we want, like, in theory, we don't actually need this. I mean, we literally called it desktop. So actually, I'm going to just copy this bit because we only really care about the desktop anyways. So we don't need to put in the configuration macro to only do it on desktop because I don't have a use case otherwise at the moment. And we can always like come back to it because it's already basically set up for it. Now, if we try to trigger it and it should actually be registered. So we can try a couple of things here. We can potentially remove this. But before we do that, let's give this a run. We should, rather than getting the app opened up a second time, we should see this instead in the terminal. npm run Tauri dev. It will do a little extra work because it has a new crate, or crates potentially. It has a new Tauri plugin, would be the more direct thing to say. And we're gonna, in the same way, we're gonna call this same thing in our other terminal. It has opened up the app. This is doing a print line, so we will see this on the rest side of things. This will show up in our terminal. So if we go here and we call that same thing again, I had a pop-up that showed up on the left side of my screen, which you're not able to see. But you can see here that we have indeed gotten the error message or notification that it tried to open up a new app instance here, so we can see sort of that context, and that it was already triggered. So we're triggering this. Now we can do something, or we can handle that situation basically. There is an example in a single instance, I believe, which says it does some window focusing, which probably is worthwhile. But also, I want to emit an event. Register scheme. Okay. Was that? Where did we see that? Maybe it was in here. Okay, so this does a print line. It has both the. Oh, that's a single instance. I don't want the single instance. I want to look instead at deep link. I think that was what had our bit of code that we're looking for. Lib here. So it does a print line. Some log level stuff, and it's registering deep links. Okay, so they actually do have some caveats in here. This is useful because app images require additional setup to be available in the system. And calling register makes the deep links immediately available without any user input. And this is what we just did. That's the reason we did it. Honestly, like, this bit is a little bit, I mean, I guess. it feels exploitive, or yeah. I guess that's probably the best way I can say it. All right. Well, I'm not finding it. There was a little emit snippet that I was hoping that we could just copy and paste. Well, let's look at the single instance again. So write our code here. This shows the window. Let's put this in. I do kind of like this. So this is we'll go ahead and drop that in here for anybody following up with this. From example in docs. Now we got to do let show window. So we're doing a print line right now. And then I think we're going to end up just writing in our own let's actually, whoop, that's not what I meant to do. Let's put when defining the, you must also check arg v here. Okay. So we've defined it at runtime through this. In theory, it's also statically handled. So, yep. And manager, where is manager used? Okay. App handle. So that should be, okay. Well, there you go. That's why. So we're going to get a print line and it's going to then show the app. So now we could also do an app. I think it's app.emit. App.emit is going to be an event. So we're going to say, it just opened up on the side. Single instance, and then a payload. What's their example? Nothing. I mean, that's probably fine for right now. I don't really need a payload. And now that should, after we get a rebuild, what are we complaining about here? Oh, yeah, okay. Do they just unwrap it in the... I forgot to put a semicolon. Have you updated? Consider using a semicolon here. Effectively, we're doing like a return type. Yep, that's fine. All right, sure. Let this equals that, sure. Make this googlies go away. Now we'll have a few things happening. We'll get a bit printed to our terminal. We will then focus the window and then follow up and we'll see an event. So our main window, the first one that we open, we should see an event for this. It did just open on the side. I'm going to go ahead and open up the console. And now if we fire off another one of these, it opened up something on the side and we didn't get any. Oh, we're not handling it. That makes sense. We got this. So we're getting somewhere. Now we need to, do we have a good example for that? I can't think of one offhand in Tauri, but we have actually one in probably redacted would be the quickest place that I can find a bit of code, because what we want to do is this. Listen for events. Sure, let's just grab this. And we can close it too. We want to open up our JavaScript and log out when we receive that event. Where is my source folder? There we go. So like in theory, I suppose I could just put it directly in there. Where is, oh, here, index HTML. And actually, I'm going to copy that whole bit. We're going to put it in the script. And what we're going to then do is we'll say Tauri event. We got to make sure that the global is turned on. Let's double check that so we don't get caught. Is it under app? With global Tauri, true. Okay. So that should give us this. We're going to do some stuff with the window. I'm pretty certain this is still current. And we should get an event now. This will be a single instance. And well, let's just log out the whole chunk. Good. Okay. Hey Chris, good to see you. Linking goes good, and we have things working so far. We just got the next step, and let's test stuff out. So let's go ahead and go through it. We have an instance running. It just restarted. We'll open up the get current web view is not a function. Blast. Okay. Different versions. Let's fix this real quick before we try to progress further. So we need, there should be event and listen. Oh. Current web view. I think I can actually just do straight up window Tauri event. Window.Tauri.event.listen. I think I can just straight up do that because it's already tied to the window. Don't think I need to do that anymore. Okay, so that refreshed. It is not throwing an error anymore. Let's kill this just to be entirely certain, and then we'll walk through what we're doing here. We now have the single instance plugin and the deep link plugin both set up and running. There's a little bit of a caveat with our setup of the deep link. We are registering it at runtime, and we're doing that so we can test it. It gives us a faster feedback cycle. Once we actually go to build it and deploy it, send it out to folks, we can potentially remove this because it will then be statically configured. There are some notes though that on Linux there is potentially value in also registering it at runtime. So mileage may vary. It may be worth just keeping this in. Either way, this will in the operating system register a handler for, but based off of your configuration for your app. This single instance plugin will ensure that if you click a link or otherwise start an app that follows that scheme, it will ensure that you only have a single app running, or it's going to log out a thing to the terminal. It's going to focus the first window that you have, and then it's going to emit an event. What we just added was a listener. So we should then be able to, we've established the listener, in which case we should be able to see a log on the front end that represents this happening. So now if we run this, this will give us our first app. Keeping in mind that single instance situation, it is eventually going to log something out to the console. So we'll open that up. And if I run this, it's going to open up a second app. You can see the window blinking. It focused it, and we got an event. Sweet. So I think there's potentially a handful of things that would be beneficial for this. The So like in theory, you could potentially do some authorization auth type stuff with this, because the like an OAuth handshakes sometimes requires you to go outside of the existing browser or existing window that you're in. If you click and link on an intranet or something that like that, there might be a step where you want to first go through like an auth flow, and you can handle that through this. Otherwise, if you're like in the case of Discord, if you want to give somebody a link to allow them to join a server, they could click that. It would take them to the website. If you have a website set up for your app, then it would handle it in the website. But if you want to actually handle it in your app, this is another option. Those are probably like the big use cases when you're sharing or otherwise trying to direct folks in a way that you're capable of doing on the web, but less so on an app. And this is if you ever worked with like Slack, I've heard this multiple times from folks saying, I got this Slack link, I click the thing, it's opening up on the website. It's so annoying. The trick that I've done to work around it is to DM it to myself in Slack, because now it's in the scope of Slack and it knows how to handle it internally. But I don't think Slack actually registers a deep link for every operating system. I don't think it works on Mac. I'm not sure offhand. But also I've just gotten so used to doing the copy paste thing. I could just be misremembering. So I think there's plenty of use cases. There's potentially though the situation where if you are designing an app that works in tandem with a website and you don't have all your features in the app, you might want to be a little bit considerate of the deep linking. Because if you open up the app in every case, any link, you may want to have the ability to allow the user to like go to the website. Something to think about. Basic coder, you said it really needed type for that though. Type. Which type are you talking about? Are you thinking like the app emit? You have to let me know. I did a lot of talking. I was on a tirade. So actually, the next thing we can try, we've registered it at runtime. So now our setup is like the operating system is aware of the scheme that we've defined. Side note, how do you remove those? We might actually, I'm kind of actually curious where that's stored and if we could go in and erase it if we need to. But that being said, I think we can remove this. I'm going to kill this just to give us a little bit more of a clean slate. If we remove this setup, we are not registering it at runtime. We're only registering it. It's statically configured, so it would only be registered, I believe, when it installs. If we run this, there's nothing to actually register it anymore. So I think it's still going to work though, because we've registered it previously. So by registering it every time when you run the app, I'm presuming it's doing some sort of no op where you attempt to register it or otherwise dedupe on something that's been registered already. Okay, and we run this. opens up, event. So it's already registered. The operating system is aware of it. Let's actually see if we can. I have no idea where to even look for that. Windows deep link registration location. Execute a deep link in Windows. Devices can be enrolled in modern device management using a deep link. Yeah, so links can be sent to users through web-based communication channels. That actually, can we test that? Here, I am going to. I have no idea if this is going to work. I've got a thread in Discord, in the Tauri Discord, where I've been posting my videos. I don't think Discord's actually going to do anything with this. No. So if you just drop it in an app, what you end up seeing is the thing that's making this clickable to execute it is actually like their formatting. That formatting is sort of required if you're gonna like try to dump it in, dump it in a chat thing, because you can't click on this. I think if you try to make it like a hyperlink, maybe. So like that's the other bit. If you send somebody a link like that, they still need to be able to like execute it. How do you enable somebody to execute that thing? Basic coder, the __ Tauri. Yeah. The where'd my window go? Here. This probably isn't typed very well, which is fine. I mean, if you're doing vanilla JavaScript, I don't know how much of an expectation there is around the types. So probably fine. You don't have to do it this way though. You can actually any of this window listener stuff, you can put in any there's a event module that you can import, and you can write it in your you thought it is TS. Yeah, I did it directly in the index.html because I just wanted to see a log. That's all I cared about. It was much faster to just dump it somewhere that we could see some output. But you can this is just a part of the event system. Effectively, you've emitted an event to that specific. We're doing an app event, so every window would see that, and you could each window could then respond appropriately. So, like if we look at the JavaScript API, there's an events module. So if you want to use something that's more well typed, there should be a listen here, and you get the full gamut. We just wanted to see the log though, so something. Does the Figma desktop app use this same sign-in process as other services that offer Google authentication, such as using Google to sign in? Honestly, I don't know. I don't know that I've actually used the Figma desktop app, to be honest. I've always just used it in the browser. For my use cases, that's been fine, but I'm not a super heavy user of it. That being said, though, I don't think using a sign-in provider precludes you from handling these kind of things. Generically, most of these are just implementing OAuth, and the OAuth flow is user interacts. It opens up window that has Google or Auth0 or whatever other provider you're using. You log in there, and it basically is like sending that information back. And there's some like handshake stuff in between and whatnot. But high level, like you're either getting a pop-up separate window or you're doing like a redirect. So in either case, what you're doing is you need a way to handle the back and forth, and you can potentially just do it directly into the window. So if you have a thing where you want to click sign in, that could all potentially happen directly in the web view. But in theory, you could also implement an adjusted flow where somebody would click a link like on the website and it would open it up and sign them in right away. Like theoretically, I think that would be possible. Don't quote me on the like security considerations of that though. I think though sign-in and authentication authorization are all interesting pieces of this because they all tend to work with something external to your app. There's some like mechanism that's signing your app in, which it's not uncommon for that to be outside of like your specific app code and your like backend code. I mean, you can use things like I don't know, Passport.js or whatever that enable like the email password authentication, and that all in theory is directly in your app, but you're still hitting the back end. That is, if we want to dive into this, and maybe this is better done in a separate stream, but if we would want to dig into that idea more, we could potentially do that. I think the use cases would have to be very specific. I don't know that it would make necessarily. I don't necessarily think it would make sense as a default. Let's put it that way for sign-in stuff. But deep linking for getting the user directly into the app at a specific spot, I think that has a lot of use cases. And that will be much further driven if you have multiple users working on like the same context. So if I want to give you a link to, go to this specific place in Figma, you could do that. But how if I send you something, so it's that like additional communication channel where the deep linking ends up being useful. I could hop on the phone, Lasha, and call you and say, hey, go to this place in the app, click here, here, and here, and then you can see this, this Figma drawing. Or I could give you a link. If I give you a URL and you click that, your operating system is going to open that in the browser. What does it look like if I send you a link to, this deep link desktop text and I want it to open up in this app? How does that look? Let's see if we can figure that out. That's probably the bit that I don't know of hand. I guess in theory, like that's potentially where maybe that's the issue with Slack, where if I get a Slack link, I post it in Slack, I need something to be clickable to interact with it. By posting it in Slack, it then understands that that's a link that it can handle, and then it makes it clickable. I guess in theory we could just do let's try something. We've got our body, we've got some scripts. If we say all of our stuff is going to be rendered in our root. So if we just add down here a link and we say href equals let's say we'll go v2 Tauri dot app. If we would click this, click me, it is safe. If we do this, it'll take you to that URL. There might be security stuff that if you actually want to do this, there might be security stuff in place that might prevent some of it, but clicking this should take us directly to the website. Now, if we would give a link like this, now when you click it, it is saying we're trying to open this application. Open. It fired off the deep link. So as long as that thing is clickable, and that comes back to like the Discord. I don't want to like, yeah. That thing that we pasted in Discord didn't understand that as a link. It did not make it clickable. If we would do, all right, I wish you could like hide the sidebar in Discord. Here, we'll go like this. Okay. Can we construct a link that is clickable? If we do something like this, click this deep link to our test app. This is Markdown. It handles some Markdown. I don't know if it's gonna, didn't do that. It handles Markdown, all right? Yes, so it does do some Markdown, but there is some like linking that it doesn't, I bet you like custom URL schemes it doesn't handle. So if we would do something like this, it's like, see, it already understands that as a URL. This is a link to the Tauri site. Okay, that didn't work. It is like taking all of this. Can we? I don't want you to format. Delete. Let's try just dumping it as one piece. Yeah, it's all right. Is there extra text in here? No. Whoa. That's not what I meant to do. That is what I meant to do. Okay. Yeah, see, it's got some handling, and that kind of comes back to like the runtime checks and whatnot. It isn't going to make links out of just any arbitrary thing. And I thought you could make links in Discord though. Discord markdown link. It would help if I got it, if I didn't have it backwards. VS Code is a good example. You can use markdown links to these? Okay, I thought so. Yeah, I just completely did it backwards. I need text here, and I need linky link here. There we go. Whoop, whoop. That. So I was doing some checking. And now if we do, let's fix this one. And nope, we want this. Yes, okay, so it does do that. But it doesn't handle the custom schemes. So you won't be able to just like send this to folks. Select text and paste a link. Oh yeah, that's true. So sending these things ends up being a little bit awkward, but there's a use case that like I've used with it. We've in some of the client work that we've been doing is basically like this use case where you have a link somewhere, and if this is an internal site, or you can otherwise do some corporate magic things to install apps on folks' computers. Thereby, what these deep links are. So when somebody goes to a website, it's like some internal website, you can actually put these deep links directly on the website because you have some confidence that that user clicking it will have that app installed. And like, yeah, so Nicholas is saying like VS Code, that has they use deep links. If you send them though, that's like there's the live share. I think, I guess that's the other bit. Can you open a deep, or can you open a deep link through like a redirect? So like if I do, I don't really want to try live share here. If you give somebody a code, or if you give somebody a link to say, V2 Tauri, let's do some stuff. If we had something like this, we could potentially say /app. And when somebody gets a link to that, could we redirect and then actually open up a deep link? Yeah, you can link to a website that redirects to a link. So if I paste this directly in the browser, does it actually, yeah. So that is potentially also a way. So when you're sending somebody a link to the app, if somebody copies a link, you can open up the app that way. Yeah. Yeah, location, header, deep link. Is there a way to check that though? So if I copied a link and I copied the link in the app, or I copied it on a website, I would want it to open it up in the app if the user has that, and if they don't, then just open it up in the website. So like, if you just had something that was handling links and it was redirecting versus not, I don't know if there's a way to get any context. Like the browser is inherently sandboxed for security reasons. You wouldn't want it to have access to know what apps are installed, right? It could very well try, like if we did, okay, let's try one that is not registered. Let's see what the browser does. It might just straight up throw an error. So if we say deep link desktop test, that does not exist. I didn't really need to make it this long, but okay, so it doesn't even handle it. It just redirects to it. At least in Chrome. So if it doesn't exist, it doesn't even try to open it. So I guess that's like I wonder how you can handle that. Deep link redirect with fallback to website. Go Google. Inspect a link to that target. Oh, other Google. For Windows, it keeps them in apps, default apps URL. Okay, we can look at that. Select a link to that target and try to click it. Yeah, so like, I mean, in theory, we could do, so here's the getting started page, right? Inspect, we could do, this is an href. We can say this and this. Nope. So now if I click this, it should do nothing. Failed to launch. So we potentially have a way to error handle. We could use that information in the redirect, basically. So you might want to put some sort of handler, serverless handler thing in front of it, in the same vein as like a short link handler. But you could basically make something where you have a v2 Tauri app slash, I mean, better name for sure, but deep link handler, and more things where a user should go. You could give somebody a link like this. Like, I mean, it's not gonna work, but in your router, not like front side, like front end router, but in the network chain before it actually hits your website and is served in the browser, you could have something handle that. So, you know, like a load balancer effectively. And what it's doing is then when somebody hits that URL, you can do a quick check to see if it's registered and use that to determine where to reroute them. So they would like land on a page, it would basically be blank, and it would either open up a pop-up that says, hey, do you want to open this in Discord? And if you click cancel, I said Discord. Like that flow is very much in my head. Because it is awkward and folks mess it up all the time and have two accounts because of it. But anyways, and I'm not saying it's necessarily on the folks. I think potentially it's more an implementation consideration. But if you go to that link, you can do, it looks like you can do some sort of check to see if it's actually going to open and if it's registered. And if not, if like that's a failure, then you could just redirect directly to the website. And if the user clicks open, it opens up the app, and then the app actually gets the context then. So that would then, because like that URL is something that is clickable. We could put that in Discord, and Discord's going to go, hey, that's a URL. I know how to handle that. I'm just going to open it in your default browser. When you click it, it's going to, oh, this isn't my default browser. We'll just hit go. It's going to land on the page and say, hey, I know how to handle that. So I think those are probably going to be those are probably going to be the two main ways that you end up configuring and working with the deep links, or otherwise enabling the user to work with the deep links. You're going to either wire something directly into your app like this, where you know that the user is going to have that app installed, or you could put this on a website and you have a link to open this up in the app. So like that would actually be a really good use case. Lasha was talking about Figma before. You could have a button on the website that says, open up this drawing in the app. That would be a deep link and deep link handler like that. And by clicking that, you can open up and go directly to that drawing in the app. The other use case then is this redirect. If you have a URL, most apps are going to understand how to handle that, and that this URL when you click it, it'll open up in your browser, and you can have some code to then determine if it should try to open up the app. And if that fails, if the user cancels or it fails, then you know to redirect just directly to the website. So I think there's ways you can use this to direct the user experience and promote their, or otherwise like enable them to use the app more, like get to the places in the app where they need to more quickly, um, and improve that like shareability. Nicola, you say there's also a cute, cool event where you can capture the JS app from your website before install prompt. Yep, yeah. So the PWA flow. Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting. Okay, here we're gonna. So this is actually I gotta point this way. I'm backwards. Um, PWAs have been around for some time now, and it's gotten pretty decent. At least the experience in Chrome is solid, and pretty much everything is Chrome these days. Um, that's fine, and you can also make your website a PWA. But if you don't want to actually support a PWA, which is in some ways just a slightly fancier version of your website, it sounds like you can do that. um, show a custom dialog to directly download and switch out the default PWA install. That's a pretty neat idea. Because the prompt to install the app is sort of like built into browsers. But also like if I see that and I go, well, I don't want to install the app. It's definitely a neat idea. I'm not terribly keen on the I'm not terribly keen on the PWA install sequence though. Yeah, exactly. I think I'm sort of like mirroring Chris's thoughts. It's always like, hey, you need to install this thing. And it's usually surrounded by like 17 other pop-ups. Yeah, exactly. So like that prompt that comes up, I think potentially rather than relying on the PWA, the PWA bit, you can instead, if you have a link like this and the user clicks it, I guess it wouldn't be a link like this. It would be more a link like this other one that we shared, like this. If you got this link, href, this and open in app or fallback to website. So like if you've got something like this, when the user clicks it from the website, it's either going to attempt to open it or it's going to just go to wherever it needs to go. This feels like potentially a better way to promote it, because you're gonna like if you have an open an app button and somebody clicks it, this is a direct user action. You could then redirect them to the page to install the app if that's something that they're interested in. Here, we can take a look at this link, but I don't know that would be something that I would necessarily install or set up in my case. So promotional fields in the manifest. Yeah, so like they've got the install button here. How do I use source? I don't see a button to like install. Yeah, before install prompt. So basically they're like swapping it out. Okay. If the browser doesn't support the before install prompt, the event does not fire. And like folks can block this too. I'm pretty sure that's a if you look at like the settings, um, if you go maybe site settings, I thought there was a way to just straight up block them all. It's not under pop-ups and redirects, is it? Payment handlers. I don't see it. I thought there was a way that you could just block them all. I don't think it's under pop-ups and redirects, but I could be wrong about that. Motion sensor, automatic downloads. I mean, like, no. I thought there was a way that you could configure it. I'm not seeing it now though. But basically, just like never show a pop-up. Did you? Let's see. Yeah. So you shared this, right? Nope. I want to go do it. This. Yeah. Is it? There we go. That was a button I was looking for. Yeah. So I get this little tiny thing in the corner, almost unnoticeable. But if you hit install, then it fires off that event. Oh boy. Okay. And you can see it all fired. And then doing some things about pinning. No, I don't want to pin it right now. We're gonna go away. Yeah, you have to visit the link twice. Yeah. I mean, honestly, like it's such a small button. I think potentially this redirect thing feels better to me because you can have it as a call to action and say, hey, do you want to open this in the app? And then redirect them directly to the download if they don't have it installed. The GitHub, yes, GitHub has it there, doesn't it? Good. Also, thanks for stopping by. MIBA at work. What does that stand for? All I can think of is the movie Men in Black. But then what's the A? So you're talking about open with desktop. So if we inspect this link, what does this link look like? It's all handlers and stuff. We can't actually see what link it's going to. Well, let's try it. Okay, it redirects. So they might actually have something like that built into it. I'm not sure. It's not obvious, but they might actually have this redirect thing that we were just talking about built into it because it redirects here to download it. So yeah, it looks like there's precedence for that style. Open this in the app, and if you don't have it installed, redirect. And I guess in that case, in theory, it's if you don't have it installed and you don't have the deep linking registered. So in theory, somebody could install and not actually do the deep link. You wonder if you can detect a deep link from the website, whether it is available. So that's actually what I was, this one here. We have changed this button to be a deep link. And if we click on it in here, we can see that we get a failure. So I think there's basically like if you error check that, you would potentially have to do some work in JavaScript rather than just an Ahref. But it appears that there's some even if it's a try and see if it fails sort of situation, that could be a way to handle the like a redirect sequence or a way to redirect to the downloads and site and if the deep link is not set up. Yeah, if you have desktop GitHub desktop installed, then it'll open in the app. Yeah. So I think that would be my preference. And it seems like there's precedence with GitHub doing it. If you click it, it goes to download, or it opens it directly. If you have it installed, it opens it directly. And you can actually, like, probably part of the reason too that it is not an ahref and it's like a button handler. If you click it and you try to like trigger the user to route to a deep link, if it's going to fail, I think you can catch that in JavaScript. That's what it appears. Let's see if the scheme does not have a registered handler. I'm just curious if MDN says anything specifically about that. Register protocol handler. The navigator method lets websites register the ability to open or handle particular URL schemes. And navigate the current page to the resulting URL. So this is directly in the browser. That would let you do, there's like predefined ones. So you might have seen Mail2. Mail2 is probably at least back in the day that was a more common one. You can do an href and it'll open up your like default mail app. Yeah, they check with the timeout in JS. They do? Okay, cool. So this would be more, yeah, there you go, Mail2. This would be more if you want to register it. Can we get a get installed related apps? Oh, that's PWAs. Okay. Yeah, I don't know that there's a way to, other than just like an error check. Share to dist in Discord. Nicola's finding all this stuff for us. Oh, what did I not copy it? Bind events, open URL. Yeah, Facebook. Nice. This was done a hot minute ago. Yeah, so this I open a URL, and yeah, on a timeout, and it tries to go. So if they dialog timeout, okay. So basically, they open for they wait for the dialog, and either the user is going to click cancel, or they're going to, or it's just going to fail. And in either case, then I think that would kick off that redirect. Yeah, linker.open URL. So it's going to open up a URL here, which would then go to open the Facebook app up if you have it registered. Visibility change. Okay, cool. I think that probably covers a lot of what I wanted to look at. I'm honestly surprised we got as far as we did. I don't. Here, well, let's. I'm gonna leave this one in here. Click me. It will attempt to open another instance of the app. It's a huge link, but and let's put this in our main JavaScript just so it looks reasonably nice. If JS try catch can handle that deep link scheme and it catched an error indicating owned deep link doesn't register, it will redirect. Yep. Yeah. So And I think that's basically what the snippet that Nicola shared is doing. And it seems like that's sort of the precedence is that if you want to open an app button, that's going to be the way to do it. Try. If it fails, then redirect to the actual website version of it, or to the download page. We can assume that if the app is not registered, that the user needs to download. The unfortunate side effect of the redirect to the download page is you probably lose that context. So you would then maybe want to open that up in a new window. But, that feels like the way to handle that. Either button click and then do a check, or like in the redirect you can do a check. I would be tempted to say do the redirect. I would be tempted to say do the redirect first, because then that would enable both this, like in the redirect, do this check, load the page, try it. If it fails, go on. Otherwise, try to open it. And I'm thinking that is the best implementation, because if you're handling it in the redirect, that would also be something that like somebody could share a link. So you could do an Ahref and point directly to a link that somebody can click, and I could actually right click and copy it and then send it to somebody. So like I could right click and copy that open an app button and send it to somebody, and it would work for them. And it would, you could have it either go to the web version or the app if it's installed. And I guess too, in the redirect sequence too, that would allow, because I've gotten links to I feel like Miro does this, where I get a link and I click it, and then it tries to open up the app, and even if I click cancel, the app just like opens up in the background, even if it doesn't actually redirect to where I want it to. But like there's times also, even if I do have it installed, where as a user I just want to look at the website version of it. I don't want to bother opening up the app. Just let me look at the website for the moment. So I'm tending towards having a specific endpoint handle the redirect and functionality for the user. Thanks for stopping by, Crimson WSG. I'm not sure what that means. I think that's all that I wanted to get through. I am in some way surprised how much we were actually able to dig into this. I was a little bit worried that we were going to have trouble even doing the like registering at runtime and being able to test it. Like that feedback loop is super helpful. And I do, yeah, like this feels reasonable to leave it in there all the time. But then we would need to after executing the app, no, there's another note on caveats and run. Here, we'll go. Yep. Where is that caveat? Setup, iOS, desktop. If you prefer having a unique app instance receiving the events. So we did that. Yeah, here, this bit. I think this bit is the important thing. I would be tempted to say always register both at runtime and in static configuration. Oh, what's good? That makes me feel old that I didn't catch on to that. those gray hairs are showing, I guess. Um, I think this is the important bit. If the user can trigger a fake deep link manually. So if you, in the same ways that we did it, we edited this and literally made it a deep link. So when we click at it, it tries to do the deep link thing. So just because we've defined a URL somewhere and put a certain like URL, after the scheme, it's saying it's matching the command line arguments against the configured schema to mitigate this. But you should also check if the URL matches the format you expect. So like, we need to think about sanitization. And I think it makes sense to both statically and runtime configure, especially in desktop, because you have those differences between Mac, Linux, and Windows. And then in that case, you're just going to always have to make sure you're going to have to do that sanitization step, which I think is it's not the end of the world, but it's definitely something you need to keep top of mind, because you don't want to have people like trigger if you're just arbitrarily going to whatever URL is specified there. You could have people exfiltrate things from your app potentially based on however your routes are set up. So something to keep in mind, at least. Yeah, they must. This means Tauri only handles deep links for schemes that were statically configured, and schemes registered at runtime must be manually checked. So, the arg. So we can also check here. And this would allow us to check for deep links. And when they're clicked. So this is the thing that we have set up with a single instance, and we're emitting an event. Actually, that might have been in the single instance code that we saw that. Basically, it's just emitting an event, and this is a handy way to set up a listener directly to that event, as opposed to the manual setup that we did. There was, where is that now? Schemes registered at runtime must be manually checked. Registering at runtime. And yeah, like there's the JavaScript API, so you could register these things at runtime. So like in theory, you could have, or otherwise allow users to configure that themselves. If that feels dangerous, but like it's possible. So what's this arg? Let's look for arg. Deep links are delivered as command line arguments to a new app process. So what are those args? The command line args. We might want to put a little bit more information about this. Do I have a video or stream that talks about full transparent app windows? Yes. Probably a handful, actually. This we were using this as a bit of an example. This app is set up to I don't have any screenshots or anything. You click a button and it creates a new window, and you can set the color of that window, including transparency. So you can set opacity in that as well. So you can make a fully transparent window. And we actually have that there's a few bits to that. There's the Chrome that goes outside the window. So the like the X and the file menu and all that stuff, you can turn that off. And then you can also set the background to be transparent within your window in the web view. And you can also handle click events and or otherwise ignore them depending on where they click. So you could do like an SVG of a heart, and that heart would be something that a user can click and interact with, but the rest of the transparent part would be something you just like ignore, and you could allow click events through to the operating system. So you can, in theory, have an app of any shape. It does get wonky on Mac though, because transparent window transparency, I believe, is a private API. So something to keep in mind, but this is probably a pretty decent example of window transparency. And there's Nicholas said they have a example as well. If we look at we talked a little bit about the window decoration in the window controls. Not multiple web views. Yeah, window transparency, multi-web view. No, I guess window transparency is probably the best one. Yeah, that's probably going to be the most recent one and the best one to look at. I really need to start, I want to create transcripts for all of these, so I have something that's searchable. Because when folks ask, it's getting to the point where I've done so many of them, I don't remember when or what I did or in what stream, because some of these bits will go on a tangent and talk about it on a stream that's sort of like unrelated. Added to the to-do list, I guess, right? Speaking of to-do lists, I also need to finish the one we were doing on stream. But all right, I think that's where especially since my my mouth is getting ahead of my or falling behind my brain. I think that's where we I think that is where we are going to end it today. Well, we checked all the boxes for deep links. I think we got it pretty much everything. We dived into every one of the little bits of it that I was interested in. Potentially some more that we could explore around like auth handling flows, but that starts to get complex and we would need specific situations and examples for that. But that would be a next time thing. And speaking of next time, yeah, you're welcome, Basic Coder. Thanks for stopping by again. And if you have further questions, that's definitely been a topic that we've touched on a handful of times, and I'm happy to digress in future streams if you are interested more in it. Speaking of future streams, I think next week we're going to start getting into the overarching idea of local first. We've touched on it a little bit. We have tested Tiny Base in a Tauri app before. I think many of the options out there aren't. It's not that they're not well suited. It's that they're built with the expectation to have a browser and then some sort of backend, potentially backend. Some of them are less reliant on a specific backend, but I want to get into local first. We'll explore a handful of the options over streams, multiple streams, and I want to see what it looks like to be less dependent on a central piece, a backend served somewhere, but instead, what does it look like to move and shift some of that work into a Tauri app to where in some ways you could have like your Tauri app be the thing running the backend that syncs. And in theory, depending on the setup, you could have linear clients do peer-to-peer syncing. But like if you always have something running, I could do stuff on my phone. It could sync to my desktop. I could turn my phone off and go to a different device, and I'd still have a path that other device still gets updated. So it doesn't preclude the benefit of having a central store, but it enables folks to more directly own their data if it's something that they're interested in, which I think is, it has some very specific cases where I think there's high value in doing that. Like the personal information that's like very personal, so like finances, that kind of stuff. I think that space is, in particular, is something that can benefit from very direct and very mindful data ownership. Not that apps in the past haven't in some ways, apps in the past have benefited from you not owning your data. We'll put it that way. So that'll be a handful of streams. We'll split it up with other topics here and there, but I think next week we look at auto merge. So I'll get that scheduled up here. So feel free to click the buttons here, and when I get that one scheduled, you can sign up for notifications for next week Tuesday. I'll see you there. Have a great rest of your week. Thanks for stopping by, everybody. Great questions today. It was fun. Bye.